Imagine sailing across the vast, empty Atlantic. Suddenly, you spot a ship, its sails flapping aimlessly. You hail it, but there's no reply. You board, only to find it completely deserted. A ghost ship adrift on the waves. This isn't a scene from a movie. It's the true story of the Mary Celeste, one of the greatest maritime mysteries of all time. In December 1872, this American brigantine was discovered between the Azores and Portugal. Perfectly seaworthy, her cargo intact, but with her entire crew vanished without a trace. What happened to them? To understand the mystery, we first have to look at the ship's troubled past. Before she was the Mary Celeste, she was the Amazon. Built in Nova Scotia in 1861, her career began with tragedy. Her very first captain fell ill and died on her maiden voyage. Soon after, she collided with another vessel in the English Channel. Then, during a storm, she ran aground. Too many sailors, she was already a cursed ship, an unlucky vessel that seemed to attract misfortune. After several changes in ownership, she was salvaged, repaired, sold to American owners, and renamed the Mary Celeste. A new name, they hoped, for a new beginning. But fate had other plans. On November 7, 1872, the Mary Celeste set sail from New York, bound for Genoa, Italy. At her helm was Captain Benjamin Briggs, a respected and experienced seaman. He was not alone. He had brought his wife, Sarah, and their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia. Along for the voyage, they were accompanied by a capable crew of 7 men. Their cargo was 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol, a volatile substance destined for fortifying Italian wines. The journey started uneventfully, a routine transatlantic crossing. But 10 days after their last log entry, they would all disappear, leaving their ship to tell a silent, baffling tale. Almost a month later, on December 4th, the crew of the Canadian brigantine Dague, under Captain David Morehouse, spotted a ship about 400 miles east of the Azores. It was sailing erratically, its sails in disarray, as if no one was at the helm. As they drew closer, they identified it as the Mary Celeste. Captain Morehouse was surprised. He knew Captain Briggs personally and had even dined with him in New York before they both set sail. They hailed the ship repeatedly, but only the sound of the wind and waves answered back. Fearing the worst, Morehouse sent his chief mate, Olibert de Bea, and 2 other sailors to board the vessel. What they found was deeply unsettling. The ship was deserted. Yet, there were no signs of a struggle or violence. Below deck, the ship was wet, with over 3 feet of water in the hold, but she was still very much seaworthy. The crew's personal belongings were all in place. Valuables, clothes, and even the sailors' pipes and tobacco were left untouched. In the captain's cabin, everything seemed normal, with clothes neatly folded. It was as if the family had just stepped out. The ship's galley had ample provisions, enough food and water for 6 months. The cargo of alcohol was mostly intact. Most chillingly, the last entry in the ship's log was dated November 25th, 10 days prior. It recorded their position near the Azores and noted no signs of trouble. The ship had sailed on for another 400 miles, completely on her own, but some key items were missing. The ship's only lifeboat, the chronometer for navigation, and the captain's sextant. Why would a seasoned captain and his crew abandon a perfectly sound ship in the middle of the Atlantic for a small, fragile lifeboat? The mystery had begun. Over the years, theories have swirled, from the mundane to the utterly bizarre. One of the first considerations was foul play. Could pirates have boarded the ship, murdered the crew, and stolen their valuables? This seems highly unlikely. The cargo of industrial alcohol held little value for pirates, and more importantly, the personal possessions of the crew, including a stash of money, were left behind. There were also no signs of a fight. Mutiny was another theory. Perhaps the crew rose up against Captain Briggs, but Briggs was known as a fair and pious captain, and the crew was experienced and had good records. Again, the lack of any struggle or violence on board makes mutiny a very weak explanation. What about natural disasters? Some have suggested a rogue wave washed everyone overboard. While possible, this wouldn't explain why the lifeboat, chronometer, and sextant were taken. Others have proposed the Sequoian underwater earthquake that might have panicked the crew into abandoning ship. This is purely speculative, as there's no geological evidence of such an event in that area at that time. The ship was found in good condition, which argues against a catastrophic natural event. This brings us to the most plausible and widely accepted theory, one that ties directly to the ship's cargo. The alcohol explosion theory. Of the 1701 barrels of industrial alcohol in the hold, 9 were found empty. These 9 barrels were made of red oak, which is more porous than the white oak used for the others. It's possible that over the course of the journey, alcohol vapors leaked from these barrels and accumulated in the hold. Captain Briggs, concerned about the volatile fumes, might have ordered the main hatch to be opened to ventilate the area. This would explain why the hatch was found open by the De Gratia's crew. The theory suggests that a small, contained explosion or a sudden rush of vapor from the hatch could have occurred. It wouldn't have been powerful enough to damage the ship, but it would have created a loud bang and a flash of heat, terrifying everyone on board, fearing a much larger, catastrophic explosion was imminent. Captain Briggs may have made a fateful decision. A temporary evacuation. He would have ordered everyone into the single lifeboat, taking the essential navigation tools, a chronometer and sextant with them. They may have even attached a tow line to the Mary Celeste, planning to keep a safe distance and wait for the perceived danger to pass before reboarding. From there, tragedy could have struck in any number of ways. A sudden squall could have snapped the tow line. The winds and currents could have quickly separated the small, vulnerable lifeboat from the much larger ship, lost in the vastness of the Atlantic, with no way to return to their vessel. The 10 souls from the Mary Celeste would have been left to the mercy of the sea, their fate sealed. This theory neatly explains the missing lifeboat, the navigation instruments, the open hatch, and the lack of damage to the ship. The story doesn't end with the ship's discovery. Captain Morehouse and his crew sailed the Mary Celeste to Gibraltar to claim their salvage reward. But instead of being hailed as heroes, they were met with suspicion. The Admiralty Court, led by a prosecutor named Frederick Solly-Flute, couldn't believe the ship was simply found abandoned. He suspected foul play, even accusing the De Gratia's crew of murdering everyone on the Mary Celeste to claim the salvage money. The investigation dragged on for months, despite a thorough examination of the Mary Celeste, which revealed no evidence of violence, not a single drop of blood. The court remained skeptical. In the end, Morehouse and his crew were cleared of any wrongdoing, but the cloud of suspicion lingered. They were awarded a salvage payment, but it was only a fraction of this total value, a sign of the court's unresolved doubts. As for the Mary Celeste herself, her unlucky streak continued. She became an object of morbid curiosity, a ship no one wanted. She changed hands 17 times over the next 13 years. Her reputation as a ghost ship making her a financial nightmare for her owners. Her final voyage ended in 1885 when her last owner deliberately wrecked her on a reef off the coast of Haiti in an attempt to make a fraudulent insurance claim. This scheme failed, and the ship that had survived the mysterious disappearance of her crew was left to break apart and sink into the sea, taking her secrets with her. The legend of the Mary Celeste was further cemented in popular culture, thanks in large part to a short story published in 1884 by a young writer named Arthur Conan Doyle, the future creator of Sherlock Holmes. His fictionalized account introduced sensational elements like the Marie Celeste being found with warm meals on the table and a still warm cup of tea, details that were completely fabricated but are often mistaken for fact. Doyle's story turned a real-life mystery into a timeless ghost story. So, what really happened to Captain Briggs, his family, and his crew? While the alcohol vapor theory provides the most logical and complete explanation for the strange circumstances, it remains just that, a theory. There is no definitive proof. No bodies were ever recovered. No final message was ever found. The ocean keeps its secrets well. The 10 people who vanished from the Mary Celeste left behind an enduring riddle, a ship sailing silently into history, destined to be remembered as the world's most famous ghost ship. Thanks for watching. If you're fascinated by mysteries of the deep, do not forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories from the unexplained corners of our world. See you next time.